Welcome to the Nick and Matt Show. Bringing the player interviews you want to hear and the hot topics you want to discuss. Streaming live on the Foundation Podcast YouTube channel, here's Nick and Matt.
Ella Hansen, everybody. Welcome to the show, Ella. And are you still in California?
Yep. Yeah, I'm still in California, getting ready for Masters Cup.
Okay. Can we ask generally, where's your home state?
I live in Oregon technically right now, but I'm actually moving down to the Bay Area in June, right before Worlds.
Okay, awesome. So let me get this started. We're really excited for you, and we want to find out a lot about your game and what your goals are here. But player rating, everyone has different thoughts about player ratings, but here at the Nick and Matt Show, by the way, you're talking to my brother Josh, who's a guest fill-in tonight. So that's why he's not Nick, that's Josh.
Okay.
You wouldn't know Josh? Nick, but I'm a bald version of Nick Carl. So anyway, we'll keep going.
Okay.
So, but player rating and event ratings and round ratings are a way for people to compare performances to other performances. And I just want to say, you had a 973 event rating. And get this, are you ready? I don't know if you know this stat, because we work with Statmando, an awesome stat company out there for disc golf. And your event rating was the best rating ever for an FPO player's first career major, ever. That beat out Paige Pierce and Katrina Allen. Your 978 was the best major performance ever for an FPO player in their first major. So how did your event feel? Tell us. Like, that was obviously really good. So tell us how you felt about it.
Yeah, it felt good. I know first day we kind of started with the hardest course in my opinion. So my goal was to shoot even there, and that put me in a good place for the next day. Shady Oaks was a course I was more comfortable with, and I just managed to put together a pretty good round, had one mistake there. And then yesterday just also managed to put together a pretty good round. I did struggle a little more putting yesterday. I managed to keep it pretty clean except for that one bogey on the last hole, but I was like inside the circle on the first few holes and just couldn't quite capitalize on those putts. A little nervous, just wasn't really using my legs, but once I kind of remembered that and was like, okay, use your legs, and then I was back at it pretty comfortably. So yeah, I think I haven't really had, that feeling where I've really put together like a solid round. And I guess I didn't necessarily feel like I played a miraculous round in my opinion, but I felt like I, was very solid, and I've been focusing on just trying to minimize those mistakes. And I felt like I definitely did that over the course of the weekend.
Yeah. Now, Ella, you've had a fair amount of really high level success, right, in the sport of ultimate.
Yeah.
I think, all these disc golfers who are quite aware of ultimate, but at the same time, some of us are a little bit more ignorant, and we're seeing all these stats about, wow, 2-time world champ, right? Like your skills and your forehand, so all of these things are amazing. And now we're seeing them translate into the sport of disc golf. But you're obviously fairly young as far as disc golf competition goes. But how exciting is it compared to your experiences in winning Worlds? And I don't mean like, is third place better than Worlds, but like, how is the competition transitioning like for you? Like, is this fulfilling? Is this exciting coming out there, finishing in third, maybe second, right? Even fighting for a win. How excited do you get on the disc golf course?
Very excited. I mean, yeah, like most ultimate players probably feel about disc golf, or felt before the pandemic or something, kind of was a little skeptical and kind of got dragged in a little bit and initially, and then really started to enjoy it once I actually was doing it on my own. So I do, I've really enjoyed myself out there. Obviously, I would say it's a little more stressful personally. In ultimate, you can rely on your teammates, and you want to make sure everyone's doing well, and you can kind of push your nervous energy outwards on supporting your teammates and whatnot. And it's a little harder to manage that nervous energy in disc golf, especially, playing at my first major, and that's all a new experience for me. So that's something I've definitely been working on and has been challenging, but I do feel like I have really, really been enjoying disc golf, been enjoying the people I've met, and just, feeling successful. That's pretty awesome. I think that the disc golf has a bigger culture of like fandom kind of in than Ultimate. There's a lot of people that play Ultimate, but it's less people kind of look up to players less in Ultimate, I feel like. So that's been a new experience for me too, is feeling like I have fans, which is really cool.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a disc golf celebrity culture. Obviously, it's within our own community, but very much so. In fact, I was going to ask, right? So some players will work, 5-10 years grinding to kind of work their way up. And by the time they actually play on a card with some of these top pros, they actually have nerves because they're playing with, right, the people they've looked up to. What was that experience for you? In other words, like how familiar are you with all the names and the top pros, and how does it feel to actually now becoming one of them?
Yeah, I would say I'm pretty familiar. Obviously, it's been a shorter journey than some other people's, but I've been on the other side of the camera. So I've filmed at USDGC and the Women's National Championship last year. So I definitely got to kind of be face to face with those folks. And when I started getting into the sport, I started watching, a lot of YouTube videos, FPO and MPO, of just rounds, so I can kind of see how people play, see what people do, and understand what was important for competing at that level. So it definitely was, a little exciting to meet some of those top players and play with them. And, I had a really good time last week playing a practice round with Simon and Eagle. That was really awesome for me, just to meet them in general and hang out with them. So hopefully there will be more of that. And yeah, it's been really fun to, meet these people and realize that they're just normal people, but also cool people and really good at disc golf.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you about that practice round. Because Simon was just on earlier tonight and we said, what should we ask her about? And he's like, man, did you watch my vlog? And I was like, yeah. So we were talking through it. So Paige Pierce, we had on last week, mentioned that you throw really far. Now, my understanding, and I've tried throwing an ultimate frisbee, and because I do so much disc golf, and I'm sure it's reversed for you, or it was, there's definitely an understanding of flight, but you have to change up your technique and your angles. And how did you translate to distance so quickly, or was there a steep learning curve?
I think the initial learning curve of figuring out just how to make a disc golf disc fly the way it's supposed to was the most intriguing and challenging part for me about disc golf. I mean, I got kind of forced into playing my first round with a real disc golf disc. I would mess around, and we had when I was in college at University of Oregon, we had a 18-hole course, object course across our campus. And so I would play, sometimes on the weekends with friends, and we would always play with Ultrastars. So I kind of understood the golf aspect of it in that sense. But the first time I really got to throw a disc golf disc, even though it was just a putter, I was just, straight up in the air left every time, basically throwing a righty backhand because straight up nose up, and couldn't really figure out the angles. And so that was what really intrigued me, because I was when I first actually got to throw a good throw with one of those, I figured out how to throw it. I threw it way further than I could throw an Ultrastar, and that just hooked me immediately. And so then I kind of gathered up some discs from there and started playing. And I think that, yeah, for a while it was hard, if I started to play a little bit of pickup ultimate or a league or whatever, I kind of would mess up my disc golf form and my ultimate form would be messed up. But I think once I got a chance to, once I understood or kind of taught my body and brain well enough to learn that there are two different forms for throwing a disc, I feel super comfortable. Today I was tossing around an ultimate disc and totally fine with it. But it definitely took that time to kind of learn that they're separate forms instead of, morphing my ultimate throwing form to the disc golf form, and vice versa. But I do feel obviously those ultimate skills and that form-based thing has helped me with the distance and just throwing in general for disc golf.
Yeah. And can I ask, first of all, how far could you throw an Ultrastar? Just out of curiosity, if you were throwing your furthest. I think you had some nicknames out there, something like Popeye or One Throw Ella or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
How far could you throw an Ultrastar?
There was a very colorful Australian commentator who called me Popeye Forearms.
Oh boy.
But I think with a still wind, probably 75, probably 80 yards or so, which is 240 feet.
Okay.
And that's the best furthest I've probably seen an ultra star thrown without wind is like maybe 90 yards. So you can't really get them to go that far, honestly. So that's probably my max distance with an ultimate disc for sure.
Well, you're laughing because you're comparing it to disc golf, but the reality is, I mean, anybody else try throwing an ultra star that far? It's really tough. And then finally, I'm sure Josh has some good questions here. Is what disc are you throwing? Did you try out any? I know you're sponsored by Discmania now. We might talk about that, but like other companies, I'm thinking like Discraft, for instance, they have this disc called the Comet. You have Innova with, I'm thinking like the Zephyr or whatever. There's the Condor. There's all these like discs that are similar to maybe like a lid, like an ultimate Frisbee. Did you try out anything specifically before you came to Discmania?
Yeah, I did try out the Comet because Andrew Fish is one of he's probably the best ultimate to disc golf convert, and I know he likes to throw that disc a lot, and so that was one of the first ones I put in my bag that I felt pretty comfortable with the angles. I think that, as similar as you can get a disc golf disc to be like, I think like maybe like a Sonic is kind of similar in terms of, that kind of a catch disc where you can put it nose up and it'll just kind of glide. But most other disc golf discs, if you put them nose up, even if they're flippy or kind of like Comet-esque or whatever, they won't really fly right, I guess. It's a lot about the nose angle. I think that's the most challenging for a lot of people. But yeah, right now I think for that spot for me with this Mania, I'm throwing a D-Line MD, which I'm super comfortable with. Just throwing it on a hyzer flip and letting it fade out to going straight and maybe finish right a little bit. But yeah, I definitely kind of try to start more understable. And I know people are, say just start with putters or mids or whatever, but I really wanted to throw the drivers because I wanted to throw it as far as I could. That's really what hooked me, I think.
Well, a lot of people say that, but you've actually proven the ability to do it. So I say go for it. I looked a little bit right at your PDGA bio, meaning your event history, right? So we can kind of see you started last fall, worked your way a little bit through amateur and then pro, and then we've seen your name start to show up on some leaderboards, and then finishing third at a major event. So how are you mentally handling this early career success, right? So where do you go from here? Besides the obvious of trying to win every event, right? But I mean, that's part of it. Like, where are you at mentally? Do you feel like you're performing at the top of the game, or do you feel like you've got a lot of room to grow?
I feel like I have a lot of room to grow. Like I said, I felt like my round yesterday, it felt solid, but it didn't necessarily feel like my best. And, I had probably 4 or 5 inside the circle putts yesterday that I just didn't make. And so that's like the main thing for me that I've been working on and, continuing to improve is my putting. And I think that's probably the hardest aspect for me, is just, putting is a totally different thing from ultimate. And so that's the newest part for me that I've been working on. But I do feel like I really can compete at the highest level. And, like when I was filming last year at USDGC, I went and played the course because I was like, those holes look like the ones I play at my home courses, kind of, and I think I could figure out how to throw them. And I played and I didn't really keep that good score. And I played actually the day after. And so it was just like a rain pit, basically. There was rivers all over the fairway. If you remember, It was a little rainy that last day.
Just a little.
But I felt like from what I had seen and for what my throws were, I felt like if I, upped the consistency a little bit, I definitely felt like I could compete at those tournaments. And so that's kind of what I've been doing is figuring out if I can, and it seems like I can, which is awesome. And my plan is just to keep pushing, keep competing, and getting moving up those leaderboards for sure.
All right. So I have a kind of fun question and then one that might feel a little bit more like, ooh, serious. But first of all, I guess yes or no. Have you thrown the Discmania tilt yet?
I have not.
All
I'm
right.
very excited. I'm hoping to throw it soon, though.
I was lucky enough to throw one, and it is actually insane. And Simon has a whole vlog, if you haven't watched it, where he throws it. It's just insane. But
yeah.
The second question is, tell us about what led to the the feelings and the missed putt on hole 18, round 3 at the major. I know we don't love to go back to those moments, but just out of curiosity, did you know what was on the line, and then what was going through your head, and what led to that missed putt, do you think?
Yeah, I did know what was on the line. I was avoiding the scores. I kind of realized, after first couple rounds or first couple tournaments of, checking the scores, it doesn't really work that well for me. So I was not checking the scores, but I did see like the, big leaderboard thing that they hold around the lead card. I kind of got a glance of it. And I was a little surprised to see that they weren't far ahead of me. But I was a little happy about that. And then I saw that Haley bogeyed 17 while we were waiting on 18. So I did get a little nervous there. And I knew kind of what was on the line. And yeah, I definitely was nervous. Definitely, part of my putting has been to not do too much, warm up, pump fakes and, psyching myself out. And I think that probably would have been a good opportunity to realize I was a little too nervous and just step back and maybe reset. And perhaps in the future, that'll be something that I do. And like I said yesterday, I did struggle with using my legs and just kind of felt a little off on the putting green in general. But it was definitely disappointing to miss that. But I'm also happy to take third place and at my first major. But I know that that's something, I will improve on. And believe it or not, I was pretty happy with my putting in general, just because, I have missed many a shorter putt than that before. And, that was probably my first, my first good round, I would say, with cameras on me for that I've played so far. And so, the past 2 rounds I've played on camera have been kind of bad, I guess. So it's good to feel that I can do that and not just be a player who can play well while not being scrutinized or filmed. And then when I'm under the camera, I play like crap or something. So yeah, well, I know it's a good, obviously the nerves got to me there, but there's always room for improvement. I've been working on my mental game with a mental toughness coach, and she's been really, really helpful for me. And I probably would have missed like 4 or 5 more putts that were that short yesterday if I didn't have her. So moving up.
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. I mean, those are the types of things I think that the best pros are doing. So I think people, Ella, are really impressed. They're really excited. You acknowledged a little bit more of this is the word I used, but the celebrity culture, and people are like, oh, somebody new and somebody really good who think they have, or the fans think there's a lot of potential. And so that's exciting for us. Hopefully it's exciting for you. So where are fans going to get to see you out on the tour? And that is a question. Are you actually going to tour? There's been some news about some events you may visit, but what does this look like for you? Are you still in the process of figuring it out?
Yeah, my plan kind of has been to play all of these West Coast events. I'm playing Masters Cup, and then Portland Open, and that Resistance Disc Open up in Portland as well, and then Worlds. That kind of is the end of the West Coast events, so I'm going to be taking a break for some of the summer, and then I'll be playing a few East Coast events in like the end of August or beginning of September. Definitely playing Green Mountain Championships and Maple Hill, so that will be super fun. And then I guess I qualified for the Women's National Championship, so I will probably be playing there, so that would be pretty sweet. Right now I have, this year has been kind of a test for me, I guess. My plan was to sign up for these tournaments and see if I can hang and see if it's something worth kind of investing more of my life in. And then it seems so far to me like it is. And so we'll see how that goes. But I definitely would be interested in touring, mostly full time. So that's definitely on my horizon, but probably not for this year, although I may hit a couple more events that aren't already on my schedule.
The Nick and Matt Show, a disc golf podcast designed for you, the disc golfer. Find the Nick and Matt Show on your favorite podcast platforms or stream us live exclusively on the Foundation Podcast's YouTube channel.